Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Brittany and I go through the tools and systems marketed to photographers. And then together, we break them down to see what works and what might be a waste of your time. If that sounds helpful, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. A little while ago, a commenter recommended I check out Impossible Things, which is an AI editing plugin that integrates into Lightroom. They also do offer AI culling, but we'll save that for another video. Today is all about the editing. I've looked at a few AI editing systems before, both standalone applications and Lightroom plugins, and I'm always really excited when a new one is brought to my attention, especially when they have a cute pixel mascot. So a big thank you to that commenter for telling me about them. Before I jump in, I think I need to put this disclaimer right at the beginning. These AI editing systems and software are not going to replace your expertise and eye. You will absolutely still need to make adjustments to your photos. The problem these systems are trying to solve is how to assist in speeding up your workflow, not becoming a one-click solution where you can just apply and export. If you are someone that can edit 1,000 photos over various lighting conditions in 1 hour, maybe you don't need something like this, and that is absolutely fine. But there are a lot of other people who are interested in getting a taste of the system and seeing if it could benefit their flow. And that's what we're going to be doing today. With that all covered, we're gonna get right down to it with a question I always ask of every system. What is this going to cost me? There are 3 tiers to choose from with Impossible Things. Pay as you go at 7 cents per edit with a 100 edit credit minimum. Annual Pro, where you pay $10 a month billed yearly, which would be $120, or you can pay $12 month to month. This tier discounts the edits to 5 cents, and in the fine print, there's a note about this tier, including 2,400 edits per year or 240 per month, and then each additional edit after that is 5 cents. There is a savings here. It's just a little weird to decipher, but hey, if it's working for them, I'm not gonna poo-poo it. Then there's the unlimited founders tier at $49 a month billed annually. There's no extra cents you have to pay on top of this subscription. It's a yearly flat amount of $588 or a recurring monthly amount of $59 depending on the payment schedule you opt for. Every tier comes with cropping, straightening, adaptive lens and noise options, and AI masking. So really the best tier depends on your volume of work and what you think would fit your needs best. With the pricing page thoroughly scanned, we can get to sussing out what makes Impossible Things unique from their competitors. Because truthfully, they felt a bit different just when looking at their homepage. So I wanted to get a full understanding of them via their getting started / tutorial page. And I was kind of skeptically stunned by how simple everything seemed. They mentioned to get the best results to choose 25 images for auto-tuning, which is a few thousand less than most systems require. Immediately, I was thinking this might not turn out well. But being skeptical also means I'm super curious. So I followed their steps, got the plugin installed, selected my 25 images, and quickly spotted something not mentioned on their Getting Started page, a Learn My Edits beta. The naming of that option made more sense to me based on other AI systems I've used, so I decided to try out that method first. Quick note about the workflow for this one. When I clicked Learn My Edits, it redirected me to start with their Edits Photos option, make my adjustments, then come back to the Learn My Edits screen. A tiny pause in my momentum, but not a huge deal. So now, within the Edits photo menu, everything is pretty straightforward. I selected my normal preset from these 2 drop-downs, browsed through the various options and settings that are available, enabled AI cropping and straightening because I love when a system can do that for me. Took note that 25 of my free edits were going to be taken up immediately by this learning method, and hit proceed. It took about 45 seconds for the system to complete the editing process, and after it was finished, I was curious how these edits would compare to me just slapping on my Lightroom preset at import. So I did a few comparisons and realized that right out of the gate with the edits photos, the system was making smarter contextual adjustments than my static preset would. Does it totally nail my style? No. Of course not. But I was impressed early on that it could even halfway adapt to differing lighting conditions without any learning occurring, or seemingly occurring. The next step for this method was to make my typical adjustments that mostly consisted of tiny tweaks to temperature, tint, and occasionally exposure. And I did some manual cropping that the AI was just never going to predict I wanted to make. Then I went back to learn my edits, clicked learn, and it processed incredibly fast. There was no wait time at all, which does have me a little curious if it's really learning, but I can't prove if it is or isn't, so I'm just trusting the process. When I ran the edits photos on the second half of my images after the learning was finished, I did make fewer corrections to those images, but again, I can't tell if that's because the AI actually learned from my first batch adjustments or because this batch was mostly reception details and action shots, images I naturally spend less time on than portraits. Being that Learn My Edits is still in beta, there will probably be improvements and changes that happen along the way, but so far this method is a good one and does get us editing super quick. But that is just one way to get us some smart edits from this tool. We still got the auto-tune method that was mentioned on the Getting Started page. So I've set up a second set of 50 unedited images, selected 25 of them, went into the plugins menu and hit custom tuning. Inside that menu, there's a begin auto-tune button. And honestly, if I hadn't read the Getting Started guide, I don't know how long it might have taken to find that option. Personally, I would love for the label in the plugins menu to be custom and auto-tuning, just so it's super clear. The process for auto-tuning was also quick and took about a minute and 10 seconds to complete. We can see the edits happening in real time, and when the processing is finished, we can make our adjustments to the basic sliders. My changes were once again pretty minor temperature and exposure corrections because the auto-tune edited my images a bit cooler than I like. When I felt happy with those adjustments, I went back into the custom tuning menu and could see the calculations for the adjustments I'd typically make were already filled in for me. From there, I hit finish, selected the remaining 25 images in the set, and then repeated the edit photos process that we did for our previous method. Now, I do want to note something that I realized after completing the auto-tune process. When I originally ran Learn My Edits, my results came out warmer than what they did when I ran the auto-tune. And by finalizing the auto-tune edits, I essentially overwrote those initial Learn My Edits settings. At first, I thought these two were separate options we could pick between, and they would individually influence our edits. And in some ways, that can be the case because, again, they both gave me different results when initially running. However, they really work excellently in tandem with each other, and if I were to do it again all over, I'd first use the auto-tune to establish a baseline without eating any of my edit credits, giving me a quick read on how my preset should behave and what adjustments I commonly make. Then, as I continue editing my work, I'd use the Learn My Edits beta to refine that baseline based on corrections I make over time. It makes total sense that these two would function as a team, and I'm not really sure why that didn't dawn on me until after I finished auto-tuning, but we all do goofy stuff sometimes. The important thing to me is that regardless of how they differed or how they work together, I spent less time on color and exposure corrections with both options than I would have if I were just applying my preset at import. And that is really the value of any AI editor. We'll always have to make tiny corrections, but they get us to a solid starting position quickly so that we can spend our time where it actually matters for us. In my case, that means focusing more editing time on portraits than reception dancing. Those dancing photos are always my largest deliverable by image count, and adjusting for all those varying lighting conditions when manually editing takes a good chunk of time. Getting the AI to automatically adapt to the right lighting and quickly get them to an acceptable level means I have more time to spend with the portraits. Overall, Impossible Things is a solid plugin. It's fast, gives you good results with minimal training, and it's relatively simple to figure out and get the hang of. Truthfully, you can jump in and immediately start using the Edits Photos function without any learning or auto-tuning at all. The AI will still make smart adjustments to your images right out the gate with no training downtime involved, which is something I've never seen with any other system I've tested. Does skipping that training mean worse results and more tweaks when compared to other AI systems? I don't think so. In my mind, the difference between systems isn't whether we need to make tweaks, because again, we'll always need to. It's how much tweaking we're actually doing. And with Impossible Things, even without training, the level of corrections I'm making are pretty much the same as other extensively trained AI editors I've used. We just get to experiment and start working with it a lot faster than others. Speaking of experimenting, if you've been curious about AI editing but don't want to download a separate application or wait hours for training, Impossible Things is worth checking out, especially since new users get 500 free edits. The biggest limitation is that it's Lightroom only, and while I'd love to see it expand to other systems, the proprietary nature of other photo editors similar to Lightroom makes that tricky for developers of both standalone AI programs and plugins, unfortunately. And that about wraps up our look into the Impossible Things AI editing plugin. If there's anything I didn't cover that you were curious about, I hope this video works as a roadmap to help you navigate the editing side of the plugin confidently from day one. Let me know in the comments how your experience goes, or if you're already using Impossible Things, how it's been going. Did it work how you hoped, or were you left wishing for a little bit more from the system? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you had a good time exploring with me and want to see more photo systems and products, let me know by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and hitting that little bell so you never miss out on my next tech dive. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.